Regular board meeting on today, July 14th, 2019 will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Dowd, if you can lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show that Mrs. McCarville is absent. Has public notice been given?
Yes.
Now is the time for public comment. We ask that you come forward to the podium. Please state your name and the reason for your comment. Know that we board members are very interested in what you have to say, but by board policy may not comment. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board this evening? Mr. Burke?
So just a couple of things. Last Friday we had our first of two Concert on the Diamond series. It was really, I think, highly attended. We had over 300 people here. Sold just over 250 tickets at the gate. And I will tell you, it was a really fun night. Heard a lot of great things. The foundation, did make some pretty good money. We've got another one coming up this next weekend. Eric Tesper's going to be here, and opening for him is Two for the Road. And they always bring a crowd. So hopefully the weather is good and we can have that outside. And if not, we'll bring the party inside to our auditorium and it will be just as good. So hopefully people can support that. I want to thank all of the many businesses and sponsors we've had. I know we've been playing that on the radio, but this year a lot of the businesses chipped in and basically have funded it. And so all the money that you see coming in at the gate and from our food vendors and our concessions and everything, that's going right to help students. So come buy a ticket, buy some food, enjoy the night, and help out our arts and education program. And without the sponsors, I couldn't say that. We'd be struggling to cover the event costs, so I really appreciate them for that. So, reminder that next week at 7 o'clock is our annual meeting at the other end of the building in our auditorium. And so that regular business of the board will take place as it does annually, 7 o'clock next Monday. And that our committee meetings are going to start up again in August. So other than that, we're just doing a lot of hiring and cleaning the buildings and getting everything ready for the start of next year.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Burke? Hearing none, board member reports.
We had a curriculum meeting since our last meeting, and I was suggested to be the chairperson, so here I am. The one thing on the agenda was to hear how we were going to spend the Kohl's money that came in from Jamie Jones. And Leif Carlson. Okay, sorry. And they are going to put it towards new calculus textbooks and also paying teachers to do curriculum writing, I believe. And we said that was fine, and I don't know that we have to have board approval anyway. I did express my thoughts that it's kind of getting ridiculous that kind of money, when those teachers get that kind of money, that should be like the fun money, the extra money for stuff that you don't normally get to have. Instead, we're at this point where we have to buy books. That should be coming out of a regular budget, and we can't do that. So I'm happy they're getting new calculus books, and of course along with that comes the online stuff, which is really cool for the kids and will really help them when they are at home and they want to figure out something. They can do a lot of stuff online and get help. So it's a nice purchase. Just wish we could afford to do it without that and have some really cool stuff with that Kohl's money. But maybe next time. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would make a report? make a motion to approve the minutes from our June 17th regular school board meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Approval of statement of cash.
I move we approve the June 30th, 2019 statement of cash.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Motion has been made, or discussion? Questions? Mr. Burke, anything to add?
No, it's just some regular end of the year business there.
Motion has been made and there's a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Statement of cash is approved. Approval of invoices.
I move we approve the Community First Bank General Checking Account checks number 82060 through number 82089 and ACH number 1469 through number 1531 for the fiscal year 2018-2019 for a net total of $577,606.27. This is for the purpose of general operational costs of the district.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Questions? Concerns? Mr. Burke, anything to add? Motion has been made and there's a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Invoices are approved. Statement of cash for July 10th.
I move we approve the July 10th, 2019 statement of cash.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Questions? Mr. Burke, anything to add?
Yeah, just take your attention to a couple of things. There was a transfer of funds from the state government investment pool, $300,000, and moved over to our bank just for covering payroll and other expenses. Also, there was another transfer of $1,320. You'll see that corresponds on invoices, check number 192000026. And that's to cover expenses out of our referendum fund to have Rebecca continue to look at plans for the softball field that the Buildings and Property Committee has been looking into.
Any questions? Hearing none, motion has been made and there is a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Statement is approved.
I move we approve Community First Bank General Checking Account checks number 82090 through number 82118 and ACH number 192000002 through number 0027 for the fiscal year 2019 to 2020 for a net total of $559,513.13. This is for the purpose of general operational costs of the district.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and there's a second. I guess questions first. Mr. Burke, anything to add?
No, just I guess one thing is that if you look at number 0023, some people have inquired, well, how much does it cost us to do map testing for a year and so on? Well, that shows you right there. It's just over $10,000. We pay to be able to do those assessments on an annual basis. So I know that I've been asked that question before. I thought I'd bring it up since it's there.
Motion has been made and there's a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Invoices are approved. Mrs. Fry, please, could you please read the consent agenda items for this evening?
On tonight's consent agenda, item 13B, approve the revisions to the employee handbook as presented. 13C, approve the revision to the certified staff plan for 2019-20, removing the offering of Spanish at Richland Middle School. 14C, approve the notification of academic standards to be used in the Richland School District in 2019-20. 14D, approve the appointment of Andrew Bakken to a 5-year term on the Richland School District Foundation Board of Directors. 14F, approve the resolution authorizing temporary borrowing in an amount not to exceed $1.9 million, issuance of tax and revenue anticipation promissory notes, and participation in the PMA levy and aid anticipation notes program for 2019-20. 14G1, accept the donation of $150 from American Transmission Company for the purchase of trees for the high school grounds. 14G2, accept the donation of 350 swim passes valued at $1,050 from Simon's Recreation Complex to Doudna Elementary. 14G3, accept the gift of 10 value baskets valued at $80 to the summer school program for teachers' helpers from Culver's of Richland Center. 14G4, accept the gift of various equipment valued at $10,500 from the RCHS Athletic Boosters Club to the high school athletic department. 14G5, accept the donation of a Sprint treadmill valued at approximately $250 from Ed and Lisa Miller to the RCHS Athletic Department. 14G6, accept funds of $12,000 in the names of Leif Carlson and Jamie Jones from the Cole Fellowship to Richland Center High School. 14H1, approve the request to waive Policy 252 to allow band students to practice after 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 21. 14H2, approve the request to waive Policy 252 to allow the high school volleyball team to compete in a tournament on Wednesday, August 28th. 14J1, approve the 2019-20 contracted services agreement between the Richland Hospital Incorporated and the Richland School District for occupational therapy services. 14J2, approve the 2019-20 contracted services agreement between Richland Hospital Incorporated and the Richland School District for physical therapy services. And 14K, approve RC Girl Scouts, RC Youth Wrestling, Richland County 4-H programs and clubs, Cub Scout Pack 81, and RC Youth Baseball and Softball to be sanctioned for the 2019-20 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion, objections?
If I could, I'm sorry I didn't get in time, could I just request that H be voted on individually, so I guess take it off the consent agenda?
Any other objections or corrections to the consent agenda? Hearing none. I will amend my motion to have H be taken off the consent agenda. Is there a second for that amendment?
I'll second it.
All right. Roll call vote starting with Mr. Worthington.
Aye.
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 Aye. I'll make a motion to approve the modified agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call vote starting with Mrs. Williams.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, aye.
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 Unfinished business. District transfers and vacancies 1920.
Okay, if you follow along on page 31, page 31 is vacancies, persons, transfers, and non-union job assignments. We still have Kids Club PM Child Care out there that we'll be looking for a job for, as well as business official. We haven't finished up our process on that. We're kind of looking at having some second interviews with some of the candidates. We'll update you when we get that far. If you look at page 32, this is our listing of vacancies, posting, and transfer to certified staff. We're based on your action that you've taken, we're going to be dropping Spanish at the middle school. We hope that that's temporary, but having a .4 position is really hard to hire for. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 positions pending tonight's action in the areas of computer applications, ESL, art, and third grade. Third grade is a transfer that we're looking at, and that will open up another position. Then we had our agricultural candidate dropped out, and so we are re-interviewing for agriculture. And then math and computers, I believe Mr. Bosworth is in the middle of negotiating a contract with somebody, and we'll bring that name to you when they have it. And FIAD, Adaptive Health, .5, Mr. Meyer is finishing up with that as well, and we'll bring it to you at the next meeting. We've got a candidate. So, any questions? We do have some on the order of custodians and aides and so on, and we're just starting the interview process, especially for aides. In another 2 weeks, we'll be working with Mr. Jones as things hopefully get caught up and slow down for him a little bit. He can get into the interview process with some of the custodian staff.
Okay. We will go on to revised support staff plans for 1920.
So I would like to ask the board for their consideration. I'm looking to hire a position at the guidance department at the high school. That position, I'm looking to do 2 things mainly. One, focus on our apprenticeship program. As many people know, the apprenticeship program through the CEC, Career Education Cooperative, that cooperative has disbanded. It became just a little too hard to work the funding out. Some businesses were pulling out, more of the costs were being shifted to the schools. We tried to make it work, just we couldn't come to a good solution that fit every school district. Realizing that some of us were using it with 20 to 30 students, and some of us were using it for 1 to 2 students. It just became difficult to manage that program. So we're going to take that as an opportunity for growth. We're going to move it in-house, and I'd like to take the money that we were putting into the CEC, which is near $12,000, and look at hiring a coordinator for that program. Some people might say, well, are you looking to have, an administrative assistant? Like we used to have a guidance secretary position. That person may be doing part of that job, but the larger part would be for them to be working directly with the businesses, helping to place students, working directly with CISA on that, running a career fair, doing the interview day, all those things. So I'm not really looking to hire a secretary, so to speak, or an assistant. It would be kind of a coordinating position. And I don't know the hourly rate yet that we would have to put to that. I guess I would have to put it out there and see what kind of people we would be interested, and then negotiate that price with them. But I'm not looking, to have it be, a large amount, and it would be a part-time position, 20 hours a week. So we wouldn't be paying any benefits. And that $12,000 would go a long way to help us secure that kind of a position. Just wondering what your thoughts are, if you think that's a needed position. I definitely think it's a needed position, because the other thing that person will do is to help in the guidance department, doing some things like making sure our students in the Skyward system are updated, their schedules are completed, doing some of those things that maybe a guidance secretary used to do, but that would be a very small part of that job to fill in for when they're not out there organizing stuff with businesses. Our main view or goal that John and I would like to see is to really have this person not only be a support person to Melody, but really invest reinvigorate that apprenticeship program and have a chance for growth. And so I've got a couple of people, I just put some words out there and said, hey, would this interest you as an idea? Because we did have some people who were doing a similar job to that at the CEC. So there's some people who have some interest there, as well as I plan on looking at other people in business who might want to hook in and work with students and get them in. So I think it'd be a really interesting position for someone who wants to be part-time. And I think it would be a thing that would grow that program and give our students a real good chance at some good solid apprenticeships. And it will help us connect with businesses closer, which is one of our goals. So I wanted to discuss it. I want to hear what your thoughts are before we move forward and do that.
I would definitely be in favor of it. We had the apprenticeship program before the cooperative came along, but it was sadly neglected. And I would like to see that at the forefront, you know, some motivation behind it.
I agree.
I'm in favor for it. I definitely would like to see some clear defined roles. I don't know if we could have a curriculum committee look at that and make sure that the person coming in isn't just sucked into doing.
Right. Put a job description together, make sure it's what you want, what you're looking for, and it adheres to that, what I shared tonight. Because you're right, there's so many things that, you know, so many areas of need within that kind of a support position that it could, and that's what even happened with our guidance counselor's ability to even do that in the first place. And like you said, I don't know about neglected, but there were other priorities that had to be done. And if that led to some, you know, not promoting a good viable program, you know, it may have happened in the past, but we've got a different direction now, and we're looking to grow that area. And that's what happens when you do a strategic plan. All these new things come out of the strategic plan, and you start thinking about things differently. So.
Paul?
Definitely needs a job description. And I think that it would be imperative that there be a very small portion of this person's job as guidance secretary. 20 hours a week does not go very far when you're trying to set up meetings with businesses, especially since you'll be having to follow up with those employees and employers that we do get people in. So I would like to see it much more heavily in favor of doing that job than being in the office checking on skyward accuracy and things like that.
Okay. Any other additional thoughts? Or can I give you that?
This gives me good direction. I appreciate it.
Update on strategic planning goals.
So I know we don't have time to go through every one of our goals and give it 3 to 5 minutes. So what I did is I asked each one of our administrators who are in charge of one of our goals to give me an update as to where they are with their goal, and then I condensed that into a brief, here's where they are. This is in no means intended to give you the whole picture of where they are, but what it will do is it will have you either develop some questions that you may want to send our way and we can answer to you, or if there's a specific area that you want more in-depth knowledge about, we'll bring that one back either to one of the committees or to the board as a whole, and you'll get that information. So I'm thinking that if we quarterly do this, then and then we want to dig deeper on some of the other stuff, we can. But at least this gives you that, not 10,000 foot, but maybe you're coming down to like maybe a 4,000 foot level, but you're still not in there and attending the meetings, but you have a good picture of what's going on. So when anybody in the public asks, well, what's going on with all these strategic planning goals, you know what's happening. So that's our intent. I will go into more detail though with our 2 main goals, goal 10 out of the achievement category and goal 1 out of the communication category. I will go into that just a little bit detail. give you a few minutes to review that, and then I'll kind of go into more detail about number 10 and number 1. Just to remind you, if you are having a hard time referencing the goal, it's on the back inside cover of all of our board books. That's where we list our goals. So if you can't understand, from that little snippet what the goal is about, go back and read the goal on the front inside cover. So I'm just going to go a little bit deeper into Goal 10. Goal 10 states that the district will improve culture and more positive perception of the Richland School District to attract and retain students and staff by the year 2020, 2021. Work on this goal actually started even prior to it being a finalized goal. Myself and Kathy Stoltz, as well as the board members here, when we went to the state convention, we specifically looked at some presentations there focusing on culture and climate within the schools, because we saw that as something that came pretty loud out of our school perception survey, that there was a clear perception that we needed to make some changes. And when we were there, we did find a school district that turned us on to a neat book called The Orange Frog. And this is by Sean Archer. It's a real quick read, and some of us have already read through the book, but we're going to be doing a more in-depth book discussion or book study this fall with the administration and the school board to look at this. And this book focuses on positive psychology and happiness and ways that you can increase happiness in your own realm, but also as a staff and as a community. Really, I think it's a really good thing for us to focus on. But we're going to be talking about it as a leadership team and see if we want something like this to drive our culture as a leadership team. And if, as a leadership team, we can and be inspired by something like this, we hope that that will then take place through our whole system. It starts with leadership, good leadership. And so we're going to do a book study, and if we feel this is the direction we're going to do, then we're going to bring people in who know and have done this to show us the way. So that's a good start, and that's what we're looking to do to help satisfy that goal. And so I hope that's successful. If not, and along the way, if we think that isn't fitting it for us, we'll continue to look at other ways to continue to improve culture. And this is the main portion of that. Any questions about that for goal number 10? Comments? No? Okay, and I feel like I'm going down the right direction unless you stop me.
I read the book and I think it would be a good thing for us.
It gives you a different outlook, it
Yeah.
does. It does. And I can only imagine if everybody had that same outlook, it would be very powerful. Also, goal number 1 under communication is our second focus, priority focus, I should say. And that goal is the district will develop common planning time in the 2019-20 school year within the confines of the current 19-20 school calendar and develop a long-term plan by January 2020 to act on future years. So one of the main goals of our admin team as we were looking to set up the in-service calendar was to make sure that we held sacred some time for our staff to have common planning time. And as you see that and I'll be approving that at our next meeting, you'll see that we've carved out some specific times throughout that in-service calendar to do that. We also are making a commitment to try to, on a monthly basis, put that into our staff meetings, some time for common planning. Outside of that, that's all we really have within the confines of the current calendar that we have. I've invited some of the local private schools as well as Ithaca to join me in a discussion in August, early August, about our next biannual calendar. So what I'm talking about is 2021, 21-22 school years. We're going to be talking about how can we work together maybe regionally to get some of that common planning time put together. So not only as a school district, but this has opened up a conversation about some maybe regional planning that we can get on the same calendar for. It's interesting, I just had some friends from the Sheboygan area say that, a number of the schools over there all went onto the same calendar so that they can pull resources and do things like professional development, have some common planning and so on. And I really think that that's an important thing that we can look at and do, and I know that Julie probably, I think, a superintendent's really interested in doing that. We already share food service and some other things that we do, especially with our mental health grant that we just received, and able to offer some of those services. And we read about that is one of Mr. Joseph's and the Student Services Group goal, and I think it'll be really good if we can start aligning some of these goals to overlap and work with each other. We also saw in our highlights that one of our attainment goals is focused on just what I was talking about with businesses and so on. And a couple of those goals are kind of interrelated now. That and not only stretching out and working with the businesses and the higher ed, but also looking at what we're looking to do with our industrial arts program and putting that forward at Goal 5 from Mr. Bosworth. It's just a really good spot right now. We're starting to see our strategic planning moving forward through these goals, and I think we're on a good path. We've got a lot of ideas, and we're going to be working towards those and we see some more attainment of those goals. So that's what we're looking to do with calendar and common planning time. Any questions?
No, just a comment that I think originally you were a little concerned about divvying all these up and getting them all going, but once you assign them to some leaders, that's all they needed. And it's really nice to see that so many have gotten started and are going down the path. And
We haven't got to all of them.
No, I noticed,
Yeah.
but it's really good.
Yeah,
It's-
but I'm pleasantly surprised. I think we got a lot more accomplished, and as we're doing that, we're coming together on things. You know, our in-service schedules overlapped with, you know, that common planning time. Well, we were talking about the safety committee and the safety committee's goals, and we're like, we need some common planning time to bring support staff and our other staff in together to talk about safety. And so we built that in to our current calendar. Now, it costs a little bit more in-service time to bring support staff in that didn't come in on that day, but, you know, this is the goal, this is our direction. If you can take those two, you can come together. I know that I'm not going down the wrong path, but it's one of our goals.
Is there a way we can put this on our website, just so people can, out in the public? see
Yeah,
where we're at?
this will also be included with our annual meeting materials. You know how we always do a review of our goals and everything? This will be in that 18-19 section, and then the actual goals will be in the 19-20 section. So that you can see our goals for 19-20, which will be these same goals. Yeah, so it'll be there, and then if you want, we can, I'll try to talk with Todd and his group about putting together maybe a strategic planning portion on our webpage under the board section, maybe. Any questions for any of our administrators who have been working on the goals or anything else? That's all I have for our updates then. I have one more question. Is it a good format? Do you like? Okay,
I mean, eventually, I'm sure we'll see more details of things, but I mean, at this point, this is good. What anybody else thinks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more details, but, you know, some of them we're still waiting on escorts to get back, some information to get.
The actual calendar to be produced, you know, those kind of things.
The book study, were you trying to run that through a committee, or were you going
So-
to try and?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase the books, and then we're going to talk with the curriculum committee about how we want to move it forward as a professional development.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you. I know at this time, especially with all the new hiring, and it takes a little bit to put that stuff together, so. On to item B, I will make a motion to postpone or table the skid steer, the bid to the skid steer, postpone the skid steer until our August 5th meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Questions, discussion, concerns?
I can just add, Mr. Jones and some of his crew went through the bids that came through. I also went through them. We had just a couple of questions on one of our vendors' bids that we needed some clarification, and they were out on vacation. Time to finalize it before the meeting, but that's why we needed to ask for postponement of that.
Motion has been made and there's a second. Roll call vote starting with Mr. Dowdna.
Aye.
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 Bid is, motion passed. Let's see. Revision to the Richland School District Foundation bylaws.
So if you refer you to the board book on page 49, the reason I'm aiming you there is it explains in the memo that our foundation is looking to try to grow And they want to start with growing their board. They want to go from a 7-member board to a 9-member board. And the bylaws really haven't been changed or looked at for a very long time. They were created in the 90s. They are proposing that they add 2 foundation members to the board. This board would still have control because you already have the placement of 5 members on the 7-member board. But they're looking to grow that board so that they can make more decisions, have more hands on deck, and maybe look into some other areas that they can continue to grow and try to bring resources into the school district. So that's what they're looking to do. If you were to agree, you're not agreeing to do it, you're agreeing to allow me to talk with Kirk Strang and have him go over those bylaws again, update them to current bylaws, and then add language to it to do those seats. Then it would be brought back to you, and at that time, if you were to pass it, then that would change their bylaws and give them the power to add more seats. So.
That's good.
The bylaws definitely need to be updated. I mean, reading through them. Yeah.
They're old.
So I'm in favor of
No problem.
Okay. I'll put it on our docket for Mr. Strang to go through and look through those, and he or somebody at his firm, and we'll come back to you with something else to look at.
Okay. On to request to waive policy 252. Make a motion to approve. Request to waive policy 252 to allow the band students to practice after 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 21st. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Concerns? Roll call vote starting with Mr. Corcoran.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Motion is approved. Make a motion to approve the request to waive policy 252 to allow the high school volleyball team to compete in a tournament on Wednesday, August 28th. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion, concerns? Roll call vote, starting with myself. Aye.
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 Nay.
Request is approved. We will now continue on to request to form a clay target team at RCHS. I believe there's some people that came to present, so we'll let them have an opportunity.
Thank you. Just bring it up here.
Those following along, that's on page 71.
And give a little background on it. So over the last couple of years, we've had a growing number of parents and students who have shown an interest in being a part of a clay target team and participating in the league and at the state level. And over the last couple of years, almost all of the surrounding schools around us have formed these leagues. And so it has, or clubs, it has put in our kids, students at a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of the opportunities provided. And so we would be asking that the board approve them as a club status. There would be no financial commitment to the district. And we've got Matt Schneider and Dan Imhoff here, who are the state co-directors. They're going to give a little presentation, and then they're the experts at the state level to be able to answer any questions on some concerns that you might have or how other schools do it to help guide us on what we would like to do.
I don't have no signal. I don't know why. There we go. Presentation. I'm not sure how to run this here. have any familiar?
There it is. I was thinking, look at that.
Not sure.
A little slow. The board has to stand.
All right, yeah, my name is Matt Schneider. I'm one of the state directors for the High School Clay Target League. I'm also an academic advisor at Southwest Tech, so I work in the education field as well as more of my full-time role.
I'm Danny Moff, I'm the other co-director, and my full-time role at Southwest Wisconsin Technical College is I'm the Director of Facility Safety and Security, so.
Then we have a trap shooting team at Southwest Tech that we coach, so that's kind of how we got involved with the high school side of this. So we help out a lot of different teams get started in the state, so we just have a short little presentation to go through some of the information, and then obviously have some, if you have questions at the end, we'll answer those.
Actually, if you guys have questions at any point in time, don't be afraid to shout them off and we'll answer them to the best of our abilities.
All right, so team management's obviously very important. If the school decided to accept this, you would have to get a head coach. Assistant coaches, about 1 per 10 students is what the league recommends that you have on for that, and then range safety officers that would make sure that everybody's being safe on the range. None of these have to be school employees. Most of the teams, there's over 80 teams in the state. Most of the teams don't have school staff as the coaches. Usually volunteers from the community that are familiar with the sport volunteer to coach. But this would be required through the league to have this many volunteers to help with the team.
Yes, and then as far as the range safety officers, that doesn't have to be on a ratio of 1 to 10, it's just however many fields are shooting at a time. You have to have that many trained safety officers to be able to monitor it. That's something that we can work with, and the team would be approved to help them establish those numbers and goals to make sure the ratios are appropriate as they're going.
All right, so how the league works is it's a virtual league, so it's really nice where it cuts the cost down for the students and the school, or however the team is being funded, and each school is a little bit different with that. But you will shoot at your home trap club. You'll be put in a conference based on team size. Scores are entered once a week, so the league runs Sunday to Saturday is the weekly competition. And then it's up to the coaches to get the scores entered into the online software through the USA Clay Target. So there is no travel expenses. There's 2 practice weeks, a reserve week in case you got rained out, and then 5 competition weeks with a fun week at the end. It would be more of a spring league, so it starts in late March and then goes through the state competition, which there is a face-to-face state competition in June that students can travel to if they want to. It is optional for them to participate in that. Once again, conferences are based on team size, so it's not geographically based. It's based on how many students are on your team. So you may be in conferences with teams from all over the state. So it's not going to be like your other sports that you have at the school where you're competing against the same schools all the time like you do in other sports. And then safety, fun, and marksmanship really is the key for this. It is the safest sport in high school. The league is in about 26 different states across the country. There's been millions and millions of shots fired, and not one rolled ankle, not one concussion, not one injury reported whatsoever in the sport.
So I just want to touch on the optional face-to-face state competition. This year at our tournament, we had 1,409 students registered for a single-day event. Next year, we'll be looking at, based on the growth rates that we're seeing through the state, we're looking at closer to 1,700 participants next year at the state level at our state competition. And we figure to have more than 2,000 people participating in the league and 1,700 actually competing at the state tournament.
Benefits of high school trap team is Title IX compliant, so males and females can participate on the team. It's an equal opportunity for all students, no matter if they participate in other sports or not. I know some schools are concerned that it may take students away from other sports at your school. Students are able to participate in do baseball or track and field or whatever sport that's going on in the springtime. They don't have to compete against another sport. A lot of schools will have a couple of different practice nights or competition nights that they shoot, I know some teams do like Saturdays and Wednesdays, for example. So Saturdays for the day, Wednesday evenings. So if they're participating on our sport, and they just choose one of those days. That would be up to your school and up to your coach on what your schedule for your students would be, but definitely accessible to students. is affordable because of the limited travel. I'm sure you're familiar with other sports, and you're always traveling, going to different competitions all over the region, or club sports. Maybe they're traveling all over the Midwest to participate in those sports. With this being a virtual league, you're able to just compete right at your local club. I do know that Muscadet would be the closest club, and they are willing to take Richland Center in. Right now, Highland, Riverdale, and our Southwest Tech team shoots at Muscadet, but they have room for probably one more school. So if you're interested in shooting there, that would be a local range that would bring you in. No bench warmers, so everyone participates. It's really nice with the league is that it's called true team scoring, so it's really based on every student on your team is going to count in the score for how many points that your team gets that week. So there's not somebody that's just going to send the bench and not get to participate even though they're there. So it's there for everyone.
And one thing that we found through most high schools that participate, every kid throughout the year, their score will count at least once. I mean, it's a high rate. Probably 90% of our shooters have their score count at least once towards their team goal or towards their team's conference record for that. So that's where they gain that true sense of team. Actually, the Dodgeville high school team had a really good article in the Dodgeville Chronicle last week, if you guys want to refer to that at some point, that really covers how it includes every student, and then everybody's a participative member.
And they have around 50 students on their team?
Yeah, 53 I think.
Yeah. So, and once again, we have Safest High School Sport. It is open. The league allows 6th through 12th grade. It is up to the school if they want to restrict that more. Some schools have done 9 through 12. I know Riverdale just started theirs this last year, and they were going to do 9 through 12. They decided to open up 6th through 12th grade, and I think half the team was 6th and 7th graders. So something to consider, but it's definitely a large portion of their team. Riverdale started out with 34 for the first year. So here are some examples of schools in this region that have teams. I guess I don't have to read them off, but there's an awful lot that you can see here that are right here in this area. So it's getting to be the point where it's kind of odd not to have a trap team at your school. Students' cost participation, it will vary. It's $35 to join the league, but then there's the ammunition cost and the target cost and safety glasses and hearing protection and that stuff. So it would be up to the coaches and the parents to fundraise to bring the cost down. Everything with the $35 included would be about $150 if there was no fundraising, but the only mandatory fee to the league is the $35. Fundraising efforts, raffle, sponsorship, and events. If the school or the coach wanted to work with us with some ideas on how to raise money, we'd be happy to help out with that. Frequently asked questions. The only thing that the school has to do is write a letter, either the district administrator, principal, athletic coordinator, write a letter on letterhead to the league stating that it's been approved and who the coach is, who the head coach is, contact information for the coach to get the team started. The schedule is determined by the team and obviously meant to fit the student athletes' personal commitments and other school commitments. Most schools are going through the same requirements of being academically eligible, just like it would be for any other sport. So working with your coach to make sure that they're not participating, they're not eligible. A lot of schools actually have it as a lettering sport at their school as well, but that would be as optional. All athletes must have hunter safety or pass a league safety class. So there's a class that we offer where there's an online component and then hands-on field day. So if they don't have hunter safety, they can go through that process. That process does take a little bit longer. We notice that some schools that approve late, like sometimes schools won't approve until February or so, January, February, then they're kind of scrambling for the kids to find a hunter safety course if they want to get in. So it's really good at the time of year that you're looking at this because it wouldn't be starting until spring, so it gives those students a chance to get those safety requirements taken care of. Once again, no school staff is required. It's nice to have the school willing to have a sign-up sheet out or put it on the announcements and those sorts of things, but it's not required that you find your coach within the school. And then team registration last year closed March 22nd for 2019, just kind of give you an idea of the timeline there. All right, so that's just a basic overview. We're happy to answer any questions or any concerns that you may have.
Do you guys carry the insurance if someone gets hurt?
Yes, so, yeah, this bullet point, Matt kind of glossed over it. All athletes, or coaches and athletes are covered under the league insurance policy. That's part of that $35 fee, not just our scoring fees and stuff like that. Each athlete is insured and coach is insured while they're at the activity and participating. So.
Okay, so you said that everybody scores, so one team has 10 shooters, another team has 20 shooters. Does that competition thing work?
Okay, so I'll actually go into that a little bit more in depth. So the way that works is they'll try to size them by school. You probably won't see a 10-person discrepancy per school, but 8 is not uncommon. So if we're in the 20, let's say you had 20 participants and the largest school in the league had 28, and you guys at 20 had it, it would be the 20 scorers would actually count into the league, and then the 8 lowest scorers would be removed. But each week they still shoot their rounds, and what you'll find is that bottom 8 a lot of times will filter into that top 20. So it's based on the high score shot for your conference for the week. So if out of the 50 birds, if you shoot the other shooter that shoots 50 birds, that person receives 50 points. Now if you have 2 shooters that shoot 49, then those 2 shooters actually receive 48.5 points. So it just works out that way, that all the way across the league, each score is an allotted point system based on how many shooters tie for that exact score. And then each one receives points as they work their way through that.
And there's a really awesome website, and you can take a look at it. It's wiplaytarget.com. And on that website, they release, weekly they'll release the conference standings for each conference. There's 11 different conferences in the state this year. Individual standings, male, female, novice, JV, varsity, based on average. So it's pretty complex that you're able to go on there and track that. So I know a lot of students and parents and coaches wait around. I think it's about 9, 10 o'clock on Saturday evening is when it's released, and then you get a lot. It's pretty exciting to see the results come out at that time each week.
So I hope I answered your question that it works out the same.
So let's say we're shooting, Sheldsburg was up there.
Yep.
Are we in contact with Sheldsburg, or they just know that this week you're shooting and you're going to go against Richland Center?
So it's not a head-to-head week-to-week. It's a you shoot against. Let's say there's 12 schools in your conference. So each week you will shoot and you will turn your scores in, and you will be competing against all 12 or all 11 of the other conference members at the same time. And at the end of your conference shooting season, which is your 6 weeks, then we take the total amount of points that you've earned through that, and then that's who determines the conference champions. And we hand out conference awards for first and second place for the regular season, and then individual shooters can win awards too in each one of those divisions that Matt spoke about. Your varsity, junior varsity, and novice division. We award first through third in each of those categories. So you have a potential of you have a potential of 18 students winning medals in each because they're male and female awards in each of those categories.
If all goes well, how long does it take a 10-person team to shoot?
So a lot of that depends on speed and the abilities of your shooters and then experience. So a lot of times what you'll see is the more experienced shooters can go through quickly. When I shot at the state shoot last year with my group, we shot 25 birds, each shot our 25 birds at a time in 5 minutes, but we're extremely fast. An average group's going to take about 15 minutes to run through 25 birds. So when we allot time at the state tournament, the way we set the schedule up is that in order for them to shoot 50 birds, they have a half hour. And we actually stayed a little bit, we were actually a little ahead this year when we set the schedule up when we went to the second set of 25. Or a second set of 50.
Practice might look a little different if the coach is going through, different things, but.
I'm just talking, a half hour for the group or an hour? Or...
Yeah, it's about a half hour. You can run through your 50 birds for the night with, if you had 2 sets if you had a group of 5 students, it's going to be about a half an hour commitment for them to be there. So.
And you could have more than one shooting area if you have the safety.
So it depends on how many trap fields are available at the range you're at. Like Muscadet, where we shoot, and where Riverdale shoots, It'll be on what nights are scheduled and who's available and how that works out.
So there are 6 fields there.
Yeah, so I know like when we shoot on 2 fields and Riverdale shoots on 2 fields, and it works out that there are 2 going as long as there's enough, I almost said RSOs, range safety officers, and coaches available to run, because you have to have 1 coach and 1 range safety officer available at all times in order to participate.
Do we have anything in the Richland Center area that's?
My understanding is the local range would need some things, that would be the long-term goal, to try to get that, so that they could do it here, but in the short term, they may have to travel down to Muskie.
Do we have people in Richland Center that are wanting to get this going, that would be willing to?
Yeah, I had 11 boys in my office in early February wanting to try to do this now. And throughout the course of the year, we had several parents inquire, and Mr. Bosworth said there's just been a growing interest in it.
I can speak that we had a team approach us last year. It was a mom that was the driving force. She came to the board, did basically the same presentation Matt and I just did. Was the driving force. She didn't have a coach, but she had 3 kids that wanted to shoot. And she kept going, and she went back, and she got the approval. Found 1 coach at a local club, or 1 shooter. That coach actually found 3 more people to help, and the next thing you know, it evolved. 2 years later, I think they had 40 shooters this year, and it was 1 mom that wouldn't take no for an answer and kept trying to find a way to make sure that she could get it so her kids could shoot.
What grades are you looking at offering this to, 6 through?
My initial thought was the high school. I hadn't really had that conversation with Mr. Meyer to see if we wanted to expand below that. My initial gut would say let's start with the high school, and then if we want to expand, we'll go ahead and do that, but I'm open to either.
How rigorous is your safety course if they forego a hunter safety course?
Yeah, it takes them 6-8 hours to get through the online portion, and there's probably a 2-hour field time too that they have to be out with the coach.
Yeah. It's fairly in-depth, but we want to make sure we cover all the safety handling practices. So, as far as difficulty, I haven't heard of a 6th grader that can't make it through the course as far as the reading goes and the comprehension.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the formation of a play target team at the Richland Center High School beginning with the 2019-20 school year. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further questions, objections, concerns? Hearing none, roll call vote starting with Mr. Worthington.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, on to item L, interview and appoint new board member for Area 1 East. You found on page 81. I'll make a motion.
We got a question on J3.
Agree.
Is that a part of the consent agenda?
Discussion only. Thank you, Brady. Got ahead of myself there. So the sports medicine agreement is on discussion.
They're still trying to work out just a couple of odds and ends. It's back on the hospital side of things, but I'll bring it back to it.
Questions?
Mr. Board's here if you have any other further questions. Just talking about the athletic trainer, why we're postponing it.
Do you have any questions?
I just told them that you were trying to work out, and right now it's back in the hospital's hands, and we'll get back to you.
Any questions in regards to that? All right, on item L, make a motion to approve Kathy Stoltz for the Area 1 seat.
I'll
Is
second
there,
it.
you got a second? We'll open up for discussion, questions. No, Mrs. Stoltz wanted to add anything or not? Put you on the spot.
Happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Are you sure?
A lot of people have asked me that.
She shared this as a goal with me, like, one of the first things that she said, like, I just said, she shared this with a goal with me. One of the first things she said to me, she said, you know, just so you know, someday when I'm done doing this, I'm gonna come back and be on the board. So I hope you know that about me. And it's just one of her professional goals. You know, she just wants to be on the school board.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Motion has been made and there's a second, starting with Mrs. Williams.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. And thank you.
Thank you.
And technically, you can sit with the board, but because we don't have a clerk, we're going to install you at the next meeting when we have a reorganization, and we can't reorganize until you were able to be a part of the reorganization if you wanted to be the clerk. So that's why how that goes. So we'll reorganize that clerk position at our next meeting, and you will have the ability to, as well as any of the other members of the board, to fill in for that seat. And then once that's there, then we'll go through and do the official, have you go through the oath of office. So if you want, we got a little bit of closed session left. You can join us back.
Okay.
And she has her own name things.
How convenient.
How can you stop your name tag?
Stone box.
All right. With that, I'll make a motion to move into closed session. Move into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C and/or F as appropriate, and to consider employment, promotion, and compensation of employees for the purpose of discussing an individual employee hiring and related information. And Wisconsin statutes 19.851F and Wisconsin statutes 118.125 to discuss student open enrollment applications and individual pupil information related to those applications. The board may take action on these issues in closed session if necessary and appropriate. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and there's a second. Roll call vote starting with Mr. Dowdell.
Aye.
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 We are in, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.